And so the nightmare continues. What's up guys, Phoenix here. This video is going to be another OCG Monarch deck profile, and this deck profile is also a deck list from the Yokkaichi team tournament that happened on September 20th, 2015 in the OCG. Now, this deck list was one of the deck lists piloted by one of the participants of the team that got 5th place overall, so did a little bit worse in terms of overall standings, but still, it is relevant information in terms of digesting when the deck comes over to TCG side. Now, the team that piloted, that this deck was piloted in, one of the players was playing BA, one of the players was playing the Perform H, Perform Pal Pendulum deck, and then the third player was playing Monarchs. So, literally, arguably the 3 best decks in the OCG right now were all being piloted on the same team. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't really say much about this deck because, at least with the other list, all 3 players were playing the exact same list. So, in terms of whether or not the deck was being carried or not, it definitely wasn't, because at least 2 out of 3 of those Monarch decks were succeeding in each of the matches that were played. But since one of the team members were playing Burning Abyss and the other one was playing Perform H, Perform Pal, there is the potential that this deck got carried throughout the tournament. But, I mean, I still think that it looks very solid, and it definitely has a much different dynamic than what the other Monarch list that I put up the other day has to it, in terms of it plays significantly differently in terms of what it's trying to do with its overall game plan, although it does still contain the soft lock of the Dominion of the Legendary Monarch Floodgate type card. But, I mean, it's there, so you're going to play it. If it's not played, then I don't know what you're doing. Although one other Monarch list did not play this card and actually played an extra deck and just used the Monarch support as an engine to get into those cards, and that is worth noting. But essentially, if you have access to this card, I see no reason why not playing it. But, I mean, it's not going to stop me from hating it. But anyway, deck list is triple Idea Knight and only double Eidos, and it makes a little bit of sense because you actually just don't want to draw this card. You actually want to be summoning it off Idea Knight. So having it at 2, reduces your chances of drawing it and getting clumpy hands. This person actually decided to play either the Heaven Monarch, which is the counterpart to Erebus, the Netherworld Monarch. It has a similar effect. You can tribute summon this card by tributing 1 tribute summon monster. If this card is tribute summoned, you can send 2 Monarch spell and trap cards with different names from your hand and or deck to the graveyard. So, just as the same sort of condition that Erebus has. But if you do, you special summon 1 monster with 2400 or more attack and 1000 defense from your deck, but return it to your hand during the end phase. And then during your opponent's main phase, if this card is in your hand, you can banish a Monarch spell and trap card from your graveyard, and immediately after this effect resolves, tribute summon this card. This is a quick effect. So it can tribute summon itself on your opponent's turn. It doesn't have any sort of disruption effect in the terms of like what Erebus has, but it is still something that is worth noting because it sets up your graveyard, and it also gives you access to special summon Karaz out of your deck, or special summon any of your other guys that you're trying to tribute summon on your opponent's turn. It's essentially another way to search one of your other big Monarch cards. But as I've already mentioned, Karaz, the Light Monarch, is one of the cards that you are going to be getting off of Aether. And this card, when it's normal summoned or special summoned, you can target up to 2 cards on the field and destroy those targets. And if you do, each player can draw 1 card for each of the cards that they controlled that was destroyed by this card effect. And it cannot attack the turn that it was normal or special summoned. So, Karaz is generally like the worst Monarch. But overall, it is a very neat card interaction to have with Aether, because you can special summon it, and you can use Aether's effect on your opponent's turn to special summon Karaz out of the deck as well, and do things like disrupt pendulum scales, do whatever you want to do. Although your opponent will draw cards in that instance, typically it's usually worth doing rather than not, because it will lock them out of potentially doing a pendulum summon, because they'll have to draw a fresh scale off of those 2 cards and things like that. There are obviously other interactions that you can use Karaz for, but that is basically the most obvious one. 1 Caius the Mega Monarch, 3 Erebus the Netherworld Monarch, 1 Majesty's Fiend and 1 Vanity's Fiend in the main deck, and then triple Max C. Just like the other deck, you wanted to slow down the other special summon heavy strategies before you can establish your win condition in the terms of disrupting with Monarchs and then soft locking with the field spell. Now, he only played 2 of the field spell, but I mean, that seems fine. The card is extremely accessible via Pantheism and things like that. So I overall think it's perfectly fine for you to play less than 3 of this card. I mean, honestly, if you have access to it and it's recyclable, so it's just one of those things. Even though it is technically a win condition, it's so easy to get into that, like, I can understand why the person played 2 if he didn't want it to clog and things like that. Triple Pantheism of the Monarchs, Triple Tenacity of the Monarchs, double the Monarch Stormforth, 1 March of the Monarchs, and 1 Return of the Monarchs, which we did not see in the other list, which essentially functions to further protect your monsters as well as your soft lock, because the way to break the soft lock is to find a way to get the Monarch monster off the field or deal with the field spell. But once you have March of the Monarchs up, it becomes increasingly harder to deal with these Monarchs once you can't target them or destroy them with card effects. So you have to deal with them in battle at that point, and you have to be able to summon something that cannot, that isn't from the extra deck, but can also run over 2,800 bodies. And I believe, no, this card, it only gains the 800 attack if the Monarchs physically attack. So you have to get over 28 on your own turn, and that's sometimes a very big ceiling. And so March essentially just helps solidify the soft lock to lock your opponent out of the game with the field spell and the tribute summoned Doodad. Return of the Monarchs is obvious. It just starts searching more cards. It just keeps your string of plays live and solid. Basically, if you open with Idea, any Monarch, and Return of the Monarchs, you basically have plays for the remainder of the game, because you'll be able to tribute summon a card every turn, and then through Idea and Erebus, or in Eidos rather, you will have cards to be fodder for the tribute summons for the remainder of the game because of their own effects. And that's really cool. I do really like that. Since he's playing a lot more of the big guys, he's playing double trade-in as a draw engine, and I think that's really cool as well. So specifically since Erebus can be discarded for trade-in, and then you can use Erebus' Grave Effect to discard a Monarch spell or trap and then add it straight back to your hand, or add whatever other Monarch that you discarded back to your hand. So you can definitely start recurring them that way and turning trade-in into, basically just a way to deck thin and getting things moving from there, and using it alongside with like Pantheism to start utilizing and obtaining pluses, which is really neat, I have to say. 1 Rhoda, I touched on this. If it was at 3, I'm pretty sure they'd play 3, because this is one of those lists that's playing Reinforced Truth. If Rhoda was at 3, it's just overall a better and faster card. I'm pretty sure Reinforced Truth probably wouldn't be in the deck list, although it does have some merits going Reinforced Truth into Idea to get out Eidos, and then go into either the Heaven Monarch on your opponent's turn, as well as, plays utilizing Escalation for the other ones to be summoned as well. So that might actually have some merit. I'm not 100% sure, because I have not tested too heavily with the Monarch deck, specifically speaking in OCG territories. But 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, 1 for 1, again, another card to get out Idea of the Heaven Knight, and then 2 copies of the True First Monarch, 2 copies of Escalation to summon on your opponent's turn alongside Aether, and then to Reinforce Truth as more access into Idea Knight. So just things in general from there. It's a 41 card main deck. I don't quite get that in terms of playing double trade-in, because I don't think you should be playing 1 for 1 draw cards, like in terms of 1 for 1 draw advantage, while you're also going over 40. Like, you could easily just like take this out or take out another card and make it 40 and make your deck as consistent as it was doing trade-in shenanigans, but I mean, I don't know. It seemed to work for him from what we can gather from the list. Now for the side deck, obviously there's no extra deck here because of this card. But for the side deck, I actually have no idea what this card was for. Destruction Cyclone. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, destroy all face-down non-win monsters. I have no idea why this is in here. I'm hoping that one of you guys can enlighten me, because like I've thought about it for as long as I'm willing to think about it, and I cannot see it. Maybe it's just something about the OCG metagame that I'm not seeing, but I mean, maybe someone else can tell me the answer to that. 1 Fog King for the mirror. The second copy of Vanity and Majesty's Fiends are in the side deck. Double Effect Veiler. This obviously is really good in the mirror for hitting Idea Knights and stuff like that. 2 copies of Galaxy Cyclone. The third copy of the Monarch Stormforth, and then 2 copies of Breakthrough Skill and 2 copies of Fairy Wind round this deck out to a close. Overall, I like how this Monarch deck has a much more different dynamic than the other one did. The other one was strictly lockdown based, whereas this one has a lot more different lines of technical play going for it, and I do really appreciate that, and I do like that. But overall, I'm still just I have a really bad taste in my mouth about this deck because of this damn field spell. I'm going to keep saying it. Like, this field spell is my most hated card in the game at this current point in time. I've actually just thought about it, and yes, I hate this card more than anything else in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! At this point in time. because it's just it's just ridiculous. But that is it for this video. As always, guys, comment, rate, subscribe, like the video if you like the content I've been producing and want to support my channel's growth now as well as in the future. Definitely drop a like down below if you like these types of videos I'm going to be doing in terms of OCG deck discussion, so that we can sort of analyze it and digest it in the TCG player base and prepare ourselves for when the deck comes over to our shores. But as usual, links are in the description to both my Facebook pages. If you want to chat with me on a personal basis, just have some personal conversation with me, that is going to be the best place to try and do so. Clicking that if you have not, I'd greatly appreciate it. It helps make money, and there's no reason to lie to you guys about that. But as per usual, I would not be offended nor take it personally if you decided not to do so. Just know that it helps me out immensely, and it would be greatly appreciated, more than you could ever know, if you decided to do so. But that is it for this video, and as always, guys, take care. I might do some more of these videos covering some more of these OCG lists if I find them interesting from different events. If these videos are well received, like I said, like them if you like me doing this sort of video or not. I am definitely willing to, I'm definitely, what's the word I'm looking for? Anxious, that one. Anxious to hear you guys' input and, thoughts on what I'm doing here. But, as I've already said, that's all for this video. And, again, guys, as always, take care.